Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Edgeverse TechCast. This is your go-to spot for everything related to NXP software, tools, and enablement, specifically for all you embedded developers out there. And I'm one of your co-hosts, Kyle Dando.
And I'm Bridget Stone. Whether you're evaluating a new MCU, or you're building a prototype, or preparing for production, chances are you've interacted with a development board, expansion module, or a distributor along the way.
And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. We're going to explore how the Freedom ecosystem has been helping engineers move faster. And that's from their first evaluation all the way to getting a working prototype. More importantly, we're visited by a special guest who's going to share the role that DigiKey plays in supporting developers throughout that entire journey.
Joining us today is Matt Mielke, applications engineer at DigiKey Electronics. DigiKey is one of the world's largest electronic component distributors, supporting engineers with products, technical resources, design content, and hands-on support.
Matt, welcome to the Edgeverse TechCast. So before we start talking about Freedom evaluation boards and that development enablement, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your role at DigiKey?
Sure. Hi, I'm Matt Mielke. I'm an applications engineer at DigiKey Electronics. I've been here for over 10 years now, starting way back in 2015 as a summer intern. After graduating with my degree in computer engineering the following year, I returned to join the applications engineering group full-time. And since then, I've had the opportunity to work closely with customers and create a wide range of projects to showcase the products that we sell, as I'm sure we'll talk more about in this TechCast.
Well, Matt, we're so excited to have you. And we know DigiKey is widely known for its massive selection of electronic components and fast delivery. But for someone who isn't in our industry, how do you describe DigiKey and your role there, maybe to a curious neighbor?
Mhm. Well, that's a fun question around here because I usually don't have to explain who DigiKey is. We're headquartered in Thief River Falls, a small town in northern Minnesota with a population of less than 10,000 people. So while we do have some regional offices in the US and internationally, our more than 3 million square feet of production distribution space is located right here in Thief River Falls.
Wow.
So we rely heavily on our community and the surrounding communities for everything from warehouse operations and logistics to tech support, IT, sales, customer support, and the many other roles it takes to serve customers around the world. What I often do get asked and have to explain, though, is what I and the other applications engineers do here at DigiKey. Basically, we work closely with the technical support group to help customers choose and use the components that we sell. Customers get in touch with us with all kinds of questions, looking for more information about a product, alternatives for obsolete components, help identifying a component, troubleshooting advice, etc. Tech support acts as the first line of defense and answers the majority of these questions, but our group is available as an escalation path for more difficult or involved issues that require deeper expertise. And in addition to this reactive approach to customer service, we also try to proactively answer customer questions by publishing getting started guides, how-to articles, and project content based on what we've learned through hands-on development work and as well as by attending supplier trainings throughout the year. Many of those projects also end up being demonstrated at the trade shows DigiKey participates in. So whether we're answering questions directly or creating technical content, the end goal is the same, helping customers get the most out of the products that we sell.
That's a great perspective. I think many engineers know DigiKey is the place to buy components, but may not realize how much technical expertise sits behind the scenes, helping customers solve real design challenges every single day.
Okay, so now the two of you may not believe this, but I've been using DigiKey for a very, very long time. I can remember back when I first started in the late 90s, I was flipping through catalogs, I was placing orders through the phone, but today DigiKey has become a go-to resource for engineers around the world. They've really modernized on how engineers can get components. I think of DigiKey as being synonymous with electronics distribution as Kleenex is to tissues. You like that, Bridget?
I like it.
All right. So back to you, Matt. Why do you think customers continue to associate DigiKey when they begin evaluating components or building their latest embedded designs?
Well, aside from our customer service and technical expertise, I think there are three fundamental things that drive customers to DigiKey. First is our large selection of in-stock components. We have nearly 2 million active stocking products ready for shipment, and we're constantly adding more. Second is our fast shipping speed. We have teams working around the clock to ship an average of more than 28,000 orders a day to customers worldwide. And then third is our website, which we really think of as more than just a web catalog. We view it as a tool that helps engineers and designers understand what parts are available to them, what the differences are between them, and where they can find additional resources like datasheets, CAD models, reference designs, and other technical documentation. And I can attest that we as a company invest a tremendous amount of effort into making our site as complete, organized, and accurate as possible.
All right, Matt, you mentioned that DigiKey is being much more than a web catalog. Is there a service or a resource, maybe a capability that engineers may not know about, but they probably should?
I think that would be our tech forum. Most people are familiar with our traditional support channels like phone and email, but in my opinion, our forum is often the best way to get technical support from DigiKey. There are a few reasons for that. First is that every question posted to the forum is assigned to one of our technicians, and that helps us ensure that each and every post receives a response. And next, our group, the Applications Engineering Group, actively monitors the forum. And there's many other technical people throughout DigiKey as well who check it regularly and contribute when they have relevant knowledge or experience to share. We also have several knowledgeable users outside of DigiKey who like to offer their own advice, suggestions, and opinions. Because of that, posting on the tech forum is one of the best ways to get as many technical eyes as possible on your question. And finally, we've been providing support on the forum for many years now, so there's a decent chance that your question has already been asked and answered. The forum is also where we publish many of our getting started guides and document our demo projects. And because it's interactive, if something isn't clear in the documentation or isn't working as you expected, you can ask a follow-up question and continue the discussion right there.
I love that because engineers don't just need parts, they need answers. And having access to a community and technical experts can save an enormous amount of development time.
Absolutely. All right, so we've talked about DigiKey as a supplier and a support resource. Let's shift gears now and talk about what engineers are actually building with all these platforms.
So, Matt, are there specific customer segments where you see Freedom boards used most often?
Honestly, I see these boards being used, well, all across the board. I'm personally a big fan of simple, affordable, and functional development boards like the Freedom boards. They give you the target MCU and a few useful onboard features like LEDs, push buttons, maybe a sensor or two, the debugger programmer, of course. But at the same time, you still have access to all the MCU pins through the headers. They're also Arduino, PMOD, and Click compatible, which gives you a huge number of expansion options. Because of that, they're really suitable for just about any prototype. Now, I've worked the DigiKey booth at many trade shows and events, including NXP Tech Days. And whenever we feature a Freedom board in a demo, I constantly hear things like, oh yeah, we're using one of those, or oh, we've used that in a project before. And that comes from all kinds of people, from design engineers working in the automotive industry to students building class projects. If I had to give one group the edge, though, to answer your question, it would probably be students. Anecdotally, I was at Embedded World in Germany this past March, where I put together a thread networking demo using several development boards from multiple suppliers, including two Freedom boards from NXP, the FRDM RW612 and the FRDM MCX W71. The students I spoke with were very interested in those boards. We even had a handful of each of the boards utilized in that demo to give away during the show, and the Freedom boards were easily the most popular. They were the first ones to go.
That's definitely one of the things I appreciate most about the Freedom portfolio, whether you're a student learning embedded development, a maker building a side project, or an engineer evaluating a production design, the same platform can support all those use cases.
And once those developers have that board in hand, the next step is usually expanding that functionality. And Matt, how do customers typically pair the Freedom board with the expansion ecosystems that you mentioned, like the Arduino shields, clickboards, or PMOD modules?
Well, I can start by giving you a little insight into the most popular expansion boards that we sell. For the microbus clickboards, most of the top sellers are actually featuring some sort of a serial communication interface. Things like RS-485, two-wire Ethernet, CAN, and USB to UART, I2C, or SPI. Those serial interfaces are popular in the Arduino shields as well, but most of the best-selling Arduino shields are actually prototyping and breakout boards. For instance, shields with plated through holes that allow customers to solder their own components in place, or adapter shields that add things like Grove connectors, more microbus sockets, and even screw terminals. And that's one of the reasons I personally tend to favor development boards with those Arduino R3 headers. They offer a tremendous amount of flexibility and expandability. And then regarding the PMOD boards, that's a bit more varied in terms of our top sellers. There's an even mix of I/O devices like ADCs, DACs, level shifters, buttons, displays, and again, the serial communication interfaces. Just like the clickboards, we find RS-485 and the USB to UART bridge at the top of the best-selling list. Personally now, I've used a couple of clickboards with Freedom boards in different projects and demos. One of them was the Heart Rate 10 click paired with the FRDM MCX N947 and NXP's LCD daughter board. The Heart Rate 10 click uses an optical sensor to measure pulse data, and I use the LCD to plot the output waveforms and provide a heart rate estimate. That project made good use of the MCXN's DSP accelerator to efficiently run the expensive digital filtering algorithms that were used to condition those output waveforms. Another example is the HVAC clickboard that I paired with the FRDM MCX W71 as part of the thread networking demo that I mentioned earlier. The HVAC clickboard includes a CO2 sensor, which also reports temperature and relative humidity. And in that project, the sensor telemetry was collected from the board and sent over the thread network to Home Assistant for monitoring and visualization. Just two examples from a universe of possibilities.
Those are awesome. Sounds like a lot of fun. That's one of my favorite things about the Freedom ecosystem is how quickly developers like yourself can move from a simple MCU evaluation board to those complete applications like you outlined. Now, whether it's sensing, connectivity, motor control, industrial networking, or wireless applications, there are just so many different ways that the developers are able to use these Freedom boards to make it more of a custom hardware solution. Is there any software or firmware questions that customers commonly bring to DigiKey?
Customers come to us less with software questions and more with firmware questions. A lot of what we help with involves getting started with the example applications and development environment provided by the vendors. For many customers, whether they're students, hobbyists, or professionals whose primary expertise is in another field, simply obtaining an example project, compiling it successfully, and flashing it to a development board can be a daunting task, and we're here to help with that. We've also heard from customers who are trying to adapt an NXP example application for their own purposes and run into issues along the way. For instance, I recall a customer who was trying to wirelessly control a desk lamp over BLE using a Freedom board, and they were having trouble with the Bluetooth configuration. And of course, we also receive hardware-related questions regarding things like silicon revisions, compatibility concerns, and product availability. When NXP announces a new Freedom board, customers often want to know when we'll have inventory available. The most recent question we got in this vein was regarding the FRDM MCX W72, which seems like it's going to be quite popular.
Okay, Matt, for our final question, you've spent time in Austin recently learning about some of NXP's latest technologies and enablement resources. What new technology, solution, or development experience are you most excited to share with your next customer conversation?
Definitely the material from the wireless sensing and localization class. In fact, not too long before attending that training, I was working with a customer exploring the use of BLE RSSI for wireless sensing in a safety critical application, which really isn't the best route to take. So at the time, I suggested ultra wideband as a more robust solution. But after attending that class, I'm wishing I had also mentioned BLE channel sounding as another option. It was really interesting to learn more about the strengths and limitations of each sensing and localization approach and for which applications they might be best suited. I was also happy to learn during the training that VS Code has replaced the MCU Expresso IDE as the primary development tool. The hands-on sessions using VS Code and Zephyr were especially valuable because they walked us through things like the GUI config tool for managing kconfig settings, the device tree viewer for inspecting and modifying device tree configurations, and the various debugging and analysis tools available within the environment.
You talking about VS Code has Kyle's ears perking up. It's music to him.
I'm over here trying to not start getting so excited.
So with that said, how can our listeners become that next customer conversation?
Listeners should definitely head over to our tech forum the next time they have a technical question and give our team of support technicians and applications engineers a chance to offer a solution to their problem.
Perfect. We'll include links to the DigiKey Tech Forum and related resources in the show notes. And if you're evaluating a new design, looking for technical support, or just trying to get unstuck on a project, definitely check DigiKey out.
And Matt, thanks again for joining us today. We learned so much about DigiKey that you guys are much more than just that component distributor. I didn't mention this to you, Matt, but I've actually seen you in so many different FAE training events. And so it really lends it to how trained up you guys are, and the amount of technical support that you can provide NXP is on par with contacting NXP themselves. As Bridget said, reach out to the tech forum because Matt is a great resource, and there's other resources just like Matt at DigiKey. Now, for technical support and design resources to community engagement and engineering expertise, we've covered all of that. DigiKey is a great resource for engineers to move forward with their projects.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys, and giving me the chance to talk about how we can help support the Freedom ecosystem.
Thanks for being here, Matt. And we also explored how the Freedom ecosystem enables everyone from students and makers to professional engineers building connected and intelligent edge devices. Combined with the expansion board, software and tools, and community support, Freedom provides a flexible path from evaluation to innovation. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast with a fellow engineer.
You can also find additional resources like we've talked about on this episode, the Freedom boards and the DigiKey Tech Forum links in the episode notes. And until next time, keep building, keep experimenting, reach out to DigiKey, and keep pushing technical innovation forward. And we'll catch you all on the next Edgeverse TechCast.